any other names. Now, let's look at Module 3. Module 3, the relevance and effectiveness of how this can be used. And we are talking here of a few areas. There are more areas in the module itself, but due to time, we cannot go through the whole module of productivity. So a few things and how these can be relevant in terms of the objectives of our program. So saying that, what is the rationale behind this productivity and cleaner production module? One thing is that we need to, we know there is increasing global and local competition, and the enterprises that you are going to support need to be constantly upgrading their productivity and the products to support these enterprises and to be in competition. And therefore, SCORE supports the efficient use of available equipment and technology. Again, the key word here is available equipment and technology. We usually do not say, go and say, okay, you need to change your equipment. You need to buy new technology. That's not really the SCORE method. And the second thing here is a safe and healthy workplace environment and participatory management practices. Now, these are key things that we need to remember in whatever enterprise that we are working in. Now, let's see, what is productivity? Basically, productivity is a relationship between the inputs and the outputs. So when we talk of inputs, generally I ask this question globally, and what are inputs? And people just talk of the material, what goes in, they'll say it's wood, it's metal, it's fabric, and things like that. But yes, that's correct. But we also have other things which are listed here, and that labor, the technology, the material itself, energy, water. I mean, different industries need different kinds of inputs based on what they are going to produce. Now, I'm also aware that we do have trainers here who have supported many different types of industries, like some in furniture, some in crafts, some in culinary, automotive, and various range of things. So you know what each enterprise, what their key inputs are going to be. But however, labor, technology, energy, and water seem quite common. Where outputs is actually the product that comes out, the value-added product or component that is being produced. So always our goal is to get more output per unit of input. And then in that sense, when I look at this, if you input 100 and you get out 100 is one example. The other example is your input is 100, but your output has reduced to 90. In the third example, which is C, the input is 90, but you have got out 100. So any guesses? What is your answer on this thing? On these, what is productivity here? Is it the first, the second, or third? You can show me with your finger very quickly. Is it A, B, or C? Is it the first one, the second one, or the third one? Can I see some responses? Yeah, I cannot see everybody, but by and large, yes, I got some answers saying that it is the third one. Yeah, so this is a very, very simple example. And I know all of you probably got this right. So that's what we call productivity. If we can put in less and get out more. So if I say we put in 100 but got out 115, still that is, there is productivity there. Okay. Then what is clean production? So clean production here is a strategy to reduce the environmental pollution and consumption of resources. So you know what resources are. And that is, so the first thing here is prevention and minimization. Avoiding the production of waste and ensuring the efficient use of resources. So we'll look at this as we go along in the next slides, what these really mean. Reuse and recycling, recovering materials and waste for productive use. The output, can we reprocess it, use it again as inputs or as to reprocess, okay? Clean and efficient energy, maximizing productivity of energy inputs while minimizing pollution. Now, I've been to many companies around the world, and it's good to see, as you know, as the years have rolled on, you know, we didn't see this much, you know, when we started doing SCORE, when I started in the ILO in 2002, we didn't see much of this minimizing pollution. But as these last 5-6 years have gone on, we are seeing that people are investing in order to reuse what could be otherwise just gone into the environment or into a drain or into some place polluting the environment. So let's look at the another area in productivity, which talks about lean manufacturing and productivity. I hope everybody is hearing me. My team can tell me if there is anything that if I'm going too fast or slow, or if something is not clear. Please indicate to the team so that they can tell that to me. But I believe so far all is going well. Right. So let's see what lean manufacturing and productivity is, or how does lean manufacturing lead to greater productivity. So what is this? Lean manufacturing is a customer-focused business model. Now here there are some very key words that you need to understand and look at. So the first one here is customer-focused. Looking at it from the customer's point of view. So this business model identifies and eliminates waste while delivering quality products on time and at a lower cost, right? Now, what is waste? Waste is any activity or input that does not add value to the customer. Now here we are not only talking of something hard, like, you know, something hard like something that you can touch and feel, but also any activity, anything that is done in the process of production, which is not going to be of value. And that's, as we look at the 8 common ways targeted by Lean, you will start thinking, some of you I know probably are experts in this field, but let's look at this from a simple point of view. And the easy way to remember, these 8 things is by this acronym called Tim Woods. Tim Woods, which means you see the first one starts with T, the second one starts with I, M, W, and so on. So what are these things? Transportation. So I'm going to explain in very brief what these things are. So if we talk of transportation within the enterprise, how much are we moving our stuff? Are we moving it from one corner to the other for the next process? How long does it take? How convenient is it to move? And things like that. How does this transportation take place? And how can we reduce the time that it takes? So unnecessary time means it's not adding value to the customer. In fact, if the customer places an order and he says, can you deliver this in 1 week? You might say, no, it takes 2.5 weeks. But actually, when you go to see why, because there is unnecessary movement or some of the other things. So transportation within the enterprise. Okay. Second thing, inventory. Why is inventory a waste? Inventory means here is, are you keeping unnecessarily amounts in stock? That's cash tied up. Or is there insufficient inventory so that now people have to wait till something comes for it to be, added to the product? So how is your inventory? That's the third one. Comes into motion. Motion mainly depends on, of course, all these industries that we are talking about are labor intensive. And does the worker have to get up and sit down or stretch to get something, or do these things and, do this, that, and the other? That involves too much of motion, too much of movement. Too much of movement involves time. So when you look at each operation in the process, and you can, let's say, cut down, if we just say 30 seconds, and if you have 20 operations and you can cut down 30 seconds each, that's going to save a lot of time in terms of minutes to carry out the entire chain of operation, right? So where this is also a waste. Now, these are things that sometimes, they are not very visible as we look, but as you train yourself to look at these while in a production flow, you will be able to see, why are they taking that long? Why is that moving so much? Why is that person having to stretch that much? The other one is waiting. If the operation or the operational sequence is not synchronized, people are going to have to wait. People are going to have to wait to get something for them to start processing it. So how does that affect your timing? Waiting is a waste. Next thing is overproduction. Now, overproduction means that either you're doing too much with the product so that, that's not what the customer really required. He didn't want it polished 3 times. You could have, if it was done properly, it could have only been polished once, So are we overproducing? Are we producing too much that cannot be sold? Customer asked for 10,000 units, but we produced maybe 10,500 units. And, but, his order says clearly that he will take only up to a maximum of 10,100 units. So now what are we going to do with that excess 400 units? So overproduction, over-processing, too much of inputs again here, doing too much. Defects and errors, you're very familiar with defects and errors. Defects because it was not done right first time. So there could be many reasons why it's not done right first time, maybe due to materials, maybe due to the labor not being trained properly, maybe due to some the material itself being defective and inspections have not been done properly. So now once it gets to almost the end of the process, you find it as a defect. So defects and errors, that is unnecessary wastage of materials and time. The 8th one, skills. We are talking here of underutilized resources. So when we talk of skills that are underutilized and these resources, we are talking of machines as well as people. Now, a simple example is, let's take our own computer, right? And, there are a lot of things that you can do with Word and PowerPoint and various, programs. How much of it are we actually using? How much of the capacity or capability of the machine do we actually use? How much of a person's talent and skill are we actually putting into use? So what is not put into use is underutilized. You see? So in a situation like if we take a very skilled worker whom we may call an A-grade worker, but the job the person is giving can be done by a C-grade worker. Now, there we find that a more skilled job could have been given to the A-grade worker. So are we matching? We find this in a lot of enterprises in different fields, of course, where they don't match the skills. So a person who needs a higher skill has an operation that needs a higher skill gets a lower skilled worker, and vice versa, right? So here's something about lean manufacturing, and these are 8 areas which you can easily spot in enterprises. It doesn't matter whether what product is being made. We go on the concept of these 8 areas, and that's an area that you can easily improve productivity. Okay. So moving on, improving clean production, eliminating wastes. Now, under that, you see, they have targeted specific areas for improvement. And one here you can see on the left side triangle, there's energy, there is water, and there is materials. Now, not using those three properly leads to pollution and waste. Now, I'm sure you have in your enterprises, you have said, why are you using these normal lighting? Or why don't you put CFL bulbs? And then you would have seen that there is a significant drop in the electricity bill. Then you would have said, oh, why CFL? Now we have LED. So every time a bulb burns, why don't you replace it with LED? We might do those simple things in our homes as well. And then earlier, if we were using, using a 100-watt bulb, now we get the same light with probably maybe a 12-watt LED bulb. Okay, and we are spending lesser on electricity. Same way, water. Now, what are we discharging? A lot of companies that are coming up now where they use water for their processes like dyeing and stuff like that. They are now using the effluent treatment plants or ETPs, and they are recycling the water, or they are discharge and they are discharging clean, which does not affect or does not damage the environment. But also, what's important is how can we reuse that water? In the engineering industries, like electroplating and powder coating and stuff like that, these kinds of reusing is done. Similarly, there are a lot of industries look at how energy and water can be recycled. Materials. Now it's not only recycling, but how can you also have better use of your materials? For example, let's say if you take a garment factory, or even a woodworking factory, or a metal working factory. When you get sheet metal, or when you have fabric which you lay, you can actually see how much can you increase your efficiency, your cutting efficiency. And your cutting efficiency is, the more you increase it, the less waste you will have. Okay, so that's with regard to an example about materials. So we produce lesser waste. And also, some companies I know where there has been waste in terms of wood or sawdust or things like that, they have started a new business where the waste of this company becomes the input material of the other company, right? So those are ways where we can eliminate waste and reduce our cost or make a profit out of it. Now, the common strategy, or what we call the tiered strategy for waste elimination, is the first thing is, how do we reduce? That's the simplest thing. How do we reduce what we were using as inputs? But we are still getting the same output or greater output. So reducing and eliminating the waste. Otherwise, how can we reuse it? How can we reuse it? How can we recycle it? And then then how can we dispose of it safely? Like the water example that I gave you, right? Similarly, the materials that are used, look at how those can be disposed safely without adding to the heap of garbage that we find in countries like ours that are developing countries. We find garbage and heaps of these things a big issue. So how can these enterprises look at this strategy? I hope what I'm saying is clear, it's understandable. Now here's something that can be done. What does your waste matrix look like? Now this is a useful exercise that you can do in your companies, right? I thought I'll add this to this presentation. We can have, we can have types of waste. They can be categorized as non-hazardous and hazardous. On the other side, we can have the waste that are coming from the process itself, very directly from the process, and from non-processors. Like sometimes you might easily think like what's coming from the factory, and then what's coming from the office. Okay, so in the process, there are a few examples. A sawdust, it's not hazardous. The fabric of not hazardous. This could be the oils that are being used. If they are just thrown all over the place, oils. Other types of solvents or chemicals that are used in the processes. Okay. Now on the non-process area, we are seeing things like paper, water. Now these can also be in the process area, but I'm just for simplicity trying to explain on the non-process side. Then other cleaning agents, right? Fluorescent tubes, e-waste, and things like that. Some of it could be hazardous. Okay, so it's good to have your enterprise put this matrix together, and then they can work on what we looked at in the previous slide of how to go about reduce, reuse, recycle, and safe disposal. Okay. Now the next thing is how can we link lean and cleaner production methods? You are very, very familiar with IS. I'm going to go into it. We do this in workplace cooperation, and doing a tool to do it. Similarly, another very, very useful tool is the fishbone diagram or the Ishikawa diagram, right? And this is just an example that is given here, which you can look through. What do we want to Does everyone hear me?
Yes,
Yes?
Jayanta. Yes.
Okay,
Yes,
Great.
we can hear you now.
Yeah.
right. Okay. Let's continue from where we stopped. Right. So, as I was saying, the fishbone diagram is also a good tool to identify what is the thing that we want to improve and how do we go about improving that. I don't have the time to go into detail of doing a fishbone with you, but I'm sure, I think you have gone through some of these modules, so you'd be familiar with it. But use this tool, that's what I would really say. Now, the next area that we really need to, that I thought is worth picking out from the productivity module that is useful for you to focus on is really TPM, or total productive maintenance. All these enterprises that we are dealing with, they have some form of equipment and machinery. So TPM generally sounds a very big word and a very big process, and a lot of people, you know, they don't want to even go there from some of the industries that I've been doing, because, you know, they look at it in a very complicated way, or somebody has frightened them. But what does TPM really say? Optimizes the effectiveness of manufacturing equipment using team-based maintenance that involves employees at every level or function. Now, we are not leaving everything to the mechanics here, because if you see, in most factories, there will be, compared to the number of workers who are on the production floor, the number of mechanics are very, very few. So yes, there is a role that mechanics need to play, like in terms of servicing machines, and if it really breaks down, getting it going. But also there are areas where daily maintenance needs to be done by those using those machines. And also not only the daily maintenance, the proper way of using machines also needs to be taught. Now, what does TPM really do, and what does it support? You can see on the left side, it prevents downtime. What is downtime? The machine has broken down, so now there is no way to do the production. So that is what we call downtime. Avoid spills and defects. If the machine doesn't work properly, depends on the type of machine, lubricants could be spilling out and damaging the product. Or the machine doesn't perform well, so they're a product. So that area can be avoided. Making use of efficient energy inputs. If the machine doesn't work properly, it is going to by and large take up a lot of electricity, and that is what we don't want, right? So is the machine working properly? And the energy input is not only electricity, but it can be various lubricants and oils as well. And if we maintain these equipment properly on a continuous basis, on a regular basis, it will increase the equipment lifespan. A machine that says it can be used for, let's say, 5 years, we might even be able to use it for longer than 5 years. But if we don't do this, it might break down from the 3rd year onwards. And what does TPM prevent? It prevents breakdowns, reduced speeds, setup and adjustment times, or there is adjustment loss due to that. Defects and rework, idling and minor stoppages, start and yield loss. So all these 6 areas are the main issues that we find in factories that take place. Okay, regularly the machine doesn't run according to the speed that is necessary. It takes a long time when the product is changed. It takes a long time to set up, and there is, time adjustment loss time is high. Then it starts giving defects, and you have to rework those products. Then there is idling, and there are various stoppages due to various little issues where you have to find a mechanic to come and do those. And then all this leads to a loss in yield. So your output suffers. So that's why we need to have what we call TPM. So that's the basics of TPM. Now, when we talk of productivity needs to be measured. Now, of course, we do what we call a baseline assessment when we start a program of work, and then we look at how we can, what is going to be the outcome at the end of the program. And so is there a gain? Similarly, when we are looking at the area of productivity, there are different measures that can be used. And here are some examples. This is not an exhaustive list, but this is generally a list of things that can be looked into in your enterprises. One thing is manufacturing efficiency. So what do we expect from that? To measure expected versus actual output. We expected 100, but we got 90. So our manufacturing efficiency is very directly there. It's just 90%. Okay. Similarly, labor productivity. What do we want to measure? Manpower efficiency. And there it says output per employee or output per man-hour worked. Okay, we can measure those. Capacity. To understand the percentage of the overall available capacity utilized. Sometimes when we look at a production facility, when we look at the machinery there, we can say that for a month that they can produce 50,000 units. But they work for the whole month and they are only producing 30,000 units. So that's simply what we mean by the capacity utilization. Okay, what is the capability, actual capability, and what was really done there? Overall effectiveness, to measure machine effectiveness, availability, performance, and quality of the output. Next one, energy and water efficiency. You know this, to measure effectiveness of energy and water usage. So when we measure these things, we could measure it per unit. Okay. The rolled throughput yield. This is the yield of all sequential process steps multiplied. So higher the yield, the higher, the better it is. Okay. So these are some areas that we need to, as I said, this is areas in productivity that you need to understand, and you need to, it's giving you an eye opener. You need to go and look at, you can read about this more in the productivity module, and as well as you can look at other things on the internet and elsewhere. But as Stefan said, we can do continuous improvement with ourselves as well, right? So that's a little bit what I thought may be relevant to touch on in terms of module 3. And now we come to module 4. Right. So module 4 is about HR, workforce management, cooperation for corporation and business success. So out of this module, I have selected these areas. What is the rationale for putting HR? Why does SCORE put that? Then what are the goals of HR? Strategy for HR management. What is the general strategy that we should adopt? What are some of the core international labor standards? What are key HR practices, policies, and procedures that are applicable to any industry, any company? And also looking at training, development, and motivation. So why does SCORE have HR? Because your workforce is of central importance to productivity and competitiveness. So in any enterprise, the people working there is the central importance, or is the main reason, or is the main vehicle to improve productivity and competitiveness. But in order to do that, SCORE also says we must respect workers' rights, develop a skilled workforce, not just have a workforce, but develop. Develop is the key word there, development of a skilled workforce. And again, you see, just like in productivity, participatory management practices. So getting workers and managers together. So we always go back to the core of SCORE, as I would say, okay? Now, let's look at when we say putting people first, what exactly does all this mean? Is it just a nice word, or what does it really mean? Putting people first. The goal of HR is to attract an effective workforce. Not just recruiting people, but attract an effective workforce. Just getting them is insufficient. We need to develop an effective workforce. And then we need to maintain this effective workforce, because if we don't maintain it, we will be forever searching for people. We also need to create an environment that is safe, healthy, and productive for workers. As I say, if the worker is working, and yes, maybe that you have the management has also provided a fan because it's hot. But if the worker is wondering, my gosh, this fan is not fixed properly, don't know what time it's going to fall on my head, then you're not going to have a productive workforce. They're going to be worried about the fan, you know? So the environment has to be safe. So that's what we mean there. Effective HR management means higher quality and productivity. Not losing money on training new staff or on absenteeism. Now this don't get this wrong. It does not mean to say that losing money on training new staff means that we should not get new staff. What it means simply is that if we are constantly getting new staff for the same roles because people are leaving, then that is a problem. Okay, we must recruit new staff when others get promoted or when the business expands. Okay, but if not for the purpose of continuously getting new staff to fill the same positions. Now here is a 5-step strategy for HR management. First thing is define the strategic business objectives. And this is what companies don't do. They have the business objectives, but when it comes to step 2, identify a suitable organization structure. For those business objectives, companies do have business objectives, or at least they should. This is based on what are they going to do in the next financial year? How much are they going to sell, and how many products and what stuff like that? How much of profit they're going to make? So those are strategic business objectives. Now, does the organization structure support those business objectives? Most of the time, what we find is that though the goals and objectives, really what happens is they use the same organization structure and then wonder why they cannot achieve these things. So that's important. So organization structure, we look at things like the hierarchy, the functions. Should it be a tall structure? Should it be a lean structure? How should these things happen? Then in order, once we have set the organization structure, we have to look at, do we have the necessary people, the human resources, in order to fill that structure? Do we have them? And then at that point, you will come up with gaps. Well, we need X number of more operators for this section, or we need, we are getting a new technology, so we need some more people there, So that is what we are talking about, evaluating, looking at the gap analysis between what you have and what you need. And then after that, you need to consult with the workforce about the needs and strategies, because we have a gap here. We need to be able to speak with supervisors, with managers and workers, and see how many of our workers could we actually upgrade, skill them, train them, so that they could, there is an upward movement for them as well as they could move either up or horizontally. Okay, so, and then what we don't have, how can we recruit them? So you look at giving a chance to the people in the organization first. That's why we need to consult with the workforce. They also understand why new people need to be taken. They also understand missions needed to be given and how this process has been undertaken. So that's useful. And then step 5 is actually go ahead and implement the HR strategy. So that's what we talk about, the 5-step strategy for HR management. Now let's go into the next area of looking at the core international labor standards. So these are the important ones that we talk of. ILO's Declaration on Fundamental Principles and Rights at Work, which include, I'm sure because you've been trainers with SCORE, you are familiar with these things. So I'm bringing these to mind again, because the enterprises that we work with, we need to be able to tell them what these are and point them in the right direction. Freedom of collective bargaining. Does freedom of association really exist? And does collective bargaining really exist? And if it doesn't, what can we do to look at it and tell the management about what this really means? Abolition of child labor. I don't know what is the minimum age in Indonesia. Different countries have different age limits, and also based on those age limits, they will specify the kind of work that children or that young persons can do at the age of 16, what they can do from the age of 18, and after 21, what they can do. So different countries again have different limits. So anyone below those limits must be abolished. Okay. Abolition of forced labor. Now, here's an example. What is forced labor? We might all think of forced labor like, like slaves. People are somebody standing with a stick and asking them to work. And, I don't think we find that in our enterprises today. May not be literally, but we might find it in some other form. You see, now I know companies that have, taken this very seriously, and they will, if, the working hours are, let's say, from 8 o'clock to 5 o'clock, and we request, the management says in order to send the shipment, we need to, work till 7 o'clock today. And then they send a list round and they'll explain why they need to work till 7 o'clock today. And then, let's say on that production line, they will ask the workers, okay, if you, this is our need, I hope you will accede to our request. So please say that you will stay. And they send a list round with their names and they put their signatures. And anyone who says, I cannot stay, now this is a real example I'm giving, then for various reasons, they may have good reason why they cannot stay after 5. Then they open it to somebody else in the other production lines and say, we need 4 more people, anyone willing with this skill who can stay 2 hours. And of course, they would be getting paid. So you see, that's an example of going further in abolition of forced labor. Elimination of discrimination. What this is? There's discrimination today in different forms. It's not only male and female, but in other ways as well, whether people, whether it's somebody who is deaf or dumb, whether the person has been having AIDS or not. Today, people are talking of, did you get the 2 injections for vaccines for COVID or not? And that also has become a discussion for elimination of, or rather for discrimination. So we need to look at these in the enterprises that we work, and we really need to educate the people there on what what constitutes these things. That is our role. Then moving on from there, we need to look at the local legal and regulatory compliances. These are different country to country. What are the legal acts? What are they industry-based? The woodwork industry will have a different set of rules or regulations compared to those who are working in call centers, in IT. What are the conditions of employment? We need to have an idea of these based on the industry that we are supporting. What are the minimum age and wages in that industry? What are specified hours, working hours, overtime, and how should the payments be made? So these are things that we need to be concerned under the HR side when we go into these enterprises. Now let's look at what are some of the key HR practices, policies, and procedures. So these, I would say, are common across all types of enterprises. Okay, so it might vary a little bit in terms of what the content is, but by and large, this would be the same. There has to be an organization structure. Now, this must be defined and communicated. People must know who their boss is, who their superior is, and whom they supervise as well, and who are their peers. So that's important. There must be job profiles and job descriptions. So every person who is doing a job in a company must have a profile and a job description. There must be proper policies and procedures for recruitment. And once the staff or the worker is recruited, do they have a proper procedure of induction, or are they straight away told, go and do this work? There must be induction. There must be policies and procedures for training. As I said, everybody needs to be told how their job needs to be done in the organization that they are employed with. If they have a problem, how do they go about dealing with that? So is there a grievance procedure that is available and communicated and applicable and implemented, so that anybody in the organization, if they have a grievance, they know what to do and how it will be dealt with or addressed. Performance appraisals and evaluations. Some companies do this quarterly, some do it half yearly, some do it annually. Different ways of doing this. Sometimes it's just a team, sometimes they do the 360-degree evaluation, appraisal and evaluation, right? So I'm not going into detail, but somehow there must be a fair system of performance appraisal and evaluation. What about discrimination? Sure, we need to have policies and procedures about discrimination, about sexual harassment, and also, finally, of separation and dismissal. When somebody leaves, how many companies have what we call an exit interview? and how many companies actually record what was discussed in the exit. Many companies actually, for the person who is leaving, dismissed. I have to say, why is that? Because these are things that help the company to improve. Okay, so I hope you have a clear understanding of at least these are the bare minimum that should be there. Let's look at our last slide in this area on module 4 in terms of training, development, and motivation. Now, under training, as I said, the first thing that we really need to see once the person has been taken into the company, the new recruit, is about induction. Now there is, in detail, of course, there is what needs to be done in induction training. That is when you do the HR, I'm sure some of you have done this module, so you will know that detail. Then there is what we call classroom training. Formal training about what they need to do in the job. And then also on-the-job training. On-the-job training is as they sit at the machine or as they do whatever inspections that they are doing, they are trained. They are not just left out there and, and then left to swim or sink. But basically there is a level of hand-holding there, and they are trained to do the right thing in the right way on the job. Then we look at annual training calendar. Does the company have an annual training calendar? And is everybody on that calendar? So is this prepared annually? Does it have everyone's names? The skills matrix. If we take employees, do we have what skills can they perform and what grade are they? In skill number 1, are they A grade, B grade, or C grade? If they are B grade, how could they become A grade? When would that training be done? Now that's where it is planned in the training calendar. It's not only technical training here that I'm talking about, but what about leadership training? What about supervisory skills training? What about language training? Maybe your buyers send spec sheets, they are in English, but as you go up and as you become a supervisor and as you become an assistant production manager, how about learning some English? Otherwise, you will not be able to read these spec sheets. So is that kind of training included in this training calendar? And does it also get captured in the skills matrix? When we talk about motivational theory support, there is some disturbance that's coming. Is someone's mic on? Okay, that's fine. Right, so when we talk about motivational theory support, here it is important that you, as the SCORE trainer, SCORE facilitator, know some of these motivational theories, because you need to use these theories and you need to train them especially theories like the Maslow's hierarchy of needs. People will, Maslow says they get motivated based on a hierarchy. So how you need to know the theory in order to help the enterprise understand that sometimes just by providing a proper machine and giving the resources on time is not motivating that person. We need to know, maybe another good theory that you can look up and read up is Douglas McGregor's theory of X and Y. He talks about people who are X and he talks about people who are Y. And sometimes it is important, or always it is important, to understand who these people are and what their characteristics are. And that way they can be motivated. So as a facilitator, I would strongly urge you to look at these so that you can support your enterprises better. Counseling is another part of motivating people. They should have an ability to speak to someone about their problem, not filling out a form and sending it via the system or something like that. But do they have a real person whom they can talk to? Career pathing. How does the HR department support its workforce in career pathing? Do they have career paths for those people? Can a worker see, or a supervisor or a manager see, what happens to me after this? Where do I go from here? How can I improve myself? It's not only always money that's going to motivate somebody. So motivation plays a very, very, very important role in this process. Now, go back up here to the title, and we say training multiplied by development multiplied by motivation equals productivity. Now, why do I say it like this? You add a value to this. Let's say 1 is the worst and 10 is the best. If you add a value here, let's say you put 8 here. So this company is very good in giving training. Okay, we can give them an 8. And development, we will say, well, there is, it works pretty well. There's good opportunities for development. And let's say we'll give them a 6 here, or maybe even an 8 to make it easy. So 8 multiplied by 8, 64. Motivation. Now, if people are highly motivated there, and you give them another 8 there, it'll be 64 into 8. And, now this is just an idea to give you that your productivity is going to increase. But if you have motivation and somebody only says, I'm really not, yeah, true, they train, they develop, but the way they treat us is so bad, and there is no water to drink, and the place is not safe. So I'm not really motivated to work here. So 64 into 2 will only give you 128. Whereas 64 into 8 have given you a higher score. So you say, if motivation becomes 0, on the other hand, 8 into 8 into 0, what is the answer? It becomes, anything into 0 becomes 0. So that's something important to understand, that, there's kind of like a little formula here that you can try to work and try to do a little survey and see what is happening in terms of HR. Okay. Right. So with that, we come to the end of talking about the important aspects of Module 3 and Module 4. And then why I thought I'll bring this here is we have what we call the score suite, which has further modules, as you will see here, on gender equality, working time, and various other things here. Because in the questionnaire that we sent out, we had people asking, how can we further support the enterprises, the SMEs? What are the other areas that we can further support? So if you look at this, you can do as add-ins, or you can do as sub-modules, or whatever, however the program directs. It could be added on to support those enterprises if they want to learn something more. I'm sure in Indonesia, you would have done some of these things. Some of these things would have been added on, and you would have had some sessions for some of the enterprises on these things. So that's the story on that. And looking further, we are looking at micro enterprises and SMEs. Again, some of you may have been only serving micro enterprises, whereas others may have been serving SMEs. Some of you may have done both. At this point, are there any questions that you might like to ask? Just 2 or 3 questions I can take up so that we break the monotony of just me talking and others listening. Is Devi or Fazrul there? Or Janua?
Yes, Ajanta.
Yeah, so I was saying, Fazrul, that is there any 1 or 2, we can take up to 2 or 3 questions quickly, so that we can break the monotony of just me speaking and others listening, so that I can see, if there's something that I can answer, maybe we can quickly do it now before we move on to this other area.
Okay, sure. Ya, Bapak Ibu sekalian, jika ada yang ingin ditanyakan, silahkan.
Yeah, may I ask question?
Ya, silakan Pak Fernando.
Yeah,
Yes, please.
I'm interested discussing about the COVID vaccination because if I'm not mistaken, the vaccination is not compulsory at the moment. So when a company demand the workers to have 2 doses of vaccination, or otherwise they will not, they cannot go to the work, is it kind of discrimination, or is it kind of precaution? So that's what I want to ask for the moment. Thank you.
Right, Fernando. I wouldn't be able to exactly give you a direct answer on this from an Indonesian context, but maybe someone who is there, Fazrul, I don't know, you or anyone could give some thought, some idea on this. I don't know what it is in your country. Even if someone does not give you an answer, Fernando, I think that is a very, very good question you asked. And I hope Devi or Fazrul, you can make a note of this and see what the ILO says on this in terms of Indonesia. Is that fine for now, Fernando? If we don't get an answer?
Yeah, no problem, because I think it's kind of we need to have this kind of answer. Otherwise, maybe when we visit our when we train our company, they will ask about it, because some of the workers might not want to get vaccination at the moment. Okay, but sure, we will discuss this later. No problem.
Right. Okay. Anything else? Any other question from anyone else? By the way, first rule about how many people do we have online?
We have around 45 participants, Pak. Now it's include you and also
Me also,
and
right,
interpreters.
fine.
So in total, we have around
Okay.
45.
So we have a question coming from Elizabeth. Yes, Elizabeth, please ask the question.
Yes, thank you, Pak Jayanta. I would like to ask your opinion about when we talk about cleaner production. Most of the companies is really not seeing this as an important issue for them to really have a closer look on. But on the other side, actually, if the company is doing a lot of exports, the concerns from the buyer is actually tapping into a sustainability of the company itself. So from your experience, how can we encourage companies to start seeing it? Because again, not all of the company that join SCORE is doing export. They also work for their local market, which probably for sustainability, it's not yet there, the needs. So yeah.
Right. So Elizabeth, may I just ask a question like this? What is the company that, what do they produce in this company that you may be talking about? Or were you asking a general question?
I'm asking a general questions, no particular company.
No particular, right.
Yeah.
Okay. So the best way to look at this, Elizabeth, this is common in not only in Indonesia, it is common all over the world, because we are dealing with developing countries. And most people, of course, it's better now than those days. But still, people have not got into that rhythm of caring about the environment so much, right? Because it's like still the concept arises like, I eat, you clean. You know what I mean? Right. So how I go about this is like this. When I visit companies and I sort of get into their mindset, I can understand whether they really have a heart, if I may put it that way, whether they have a heart for CP or they don't. If they don't, now we are more concerned with the ones who don't. Okay. What I do is I find an area where the waste that they are doing is, I can calculate the waste. Like say, if it's wood or metal, like I gave some examples, once they cut the sheet, how much of waste are they having? I get them to, there are different ways you can do this. You can get them to measure the square area of that. You can get them to weigh it. You can calculate that weight or that square area in terms of either dollars and cents or whatever the currency. And then I this is much you're wasting. You're throwing away money. When I tell them you're throwing away money, they say, oh, right. So then I tell them, okay, now I'm just giving an example. If you're throwing away $100, do you want to throw away $100? Would you throw away $100? Then they say, no. Okay, how can you reduce this? Maybe I don't say reduce it to 0. How can you make this 80 or 70? And then they say, don't do it alone. Why don't you have 2-3 people on the team? They select the team. So next time I go, they have come up with 1 or 2 strategies of how they might do it. So when they start getting the taste of that, after 3 months, now they say, we are only throwing away $30. You see that? But if I tell them, look, you're throwing away this wood, it's going and getting stuck somewhere, the environment is getting messed up, they may not do anything because nothing happening inside the premises, so that is all outside. So from a foreign point of view, from a buyer point of view, ultimately at the end of the day, what we are doing is reducing the pollution or reducing the waste. It's a win-win situation. The buyers benefit, the company benefits. Okay, so sometimes there is no very direct way to solve it, but you have to, that's why I'm saying, use the knowledge of scope, use these techniques and tools, look at how else you can come to the same problem. You can't go it directly like this. You might have to come like that. Okay, be creative. Good question.
Thank you,
Elizabeth. Fantastic.
Thank you, Pak Jayanto.
Okay, right. So, right. Just one question I want to ask is, I have been talking for a long time, and I hope everyone can understand what I'm saying because I'm going very slow. I know you are having some translation also, but I hope you are gaining something. Right. Shall we continue into the next area? Fazrul?
Bapak Ibu, apakah masih ada pertanyaan lagi atau Pak Jayanta bisa lanjut dengan sisa slide-nya? Kalau tidak ada, kita bisa lanjut ya. We can continue, Pak Jayanta, because you also spare some time after the slide, right? For the
That's right.
Q&A. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Oops. Sorry, I shared the wrong one. Right. So here we go. Now here's another, I'm being a bit slightly different to your normal training that you might do. Now we are looking at micro enterprises and SMEs. So I have listed here, now all this information, most of it I have got from your feedback as well, right? So I'm using those, but I've also, added my stuff as well. And looking at, when you have micros and SMEs, we always tend to think of the differences. So I have listed some of the differences here. This is not all the differences. You can write another maybe 10 slides more on the differences, but here are some of the key things. So what are these differences? The number of employees differ. The hierarchy differs, and so on. So now let's look at each one of them. And then let's look at on the other side, what are the similarities or what should we really focus on? That's important. What should we focus on? So number of employees. In a SME, you're going to have between 50 and maybe 250 or 300. But the micro, I know some of you had said 1 to 5 employees. Others said 1 to 15 employees. Others said less than 20 employees and things like that. So yes, the numbers differ. But what is the thing that we need to really look at? It's not the number. We need to look at that all these people are human beings. So I'm right now in Sri Lanka. You are in Indonesia. And but you and I both, we almost function the same way. We need to eat, we need to sleep, we need, our boss needs to be a good boss, we need money to live, we need air to breathe, we like to be treated well, we like to work, but we don't like to be working like a slave. Right, so all these are similar, whether we look at, Sri Lanka or Indonesia, or whether we look at Pakistan or Turkey or Tanzania or South Africa, or whichever country, people who work are similar. So when we look at the similarities, then the strategies or the things that we can do become easier to think. That's how I would like to put it. Don't worry about the number too much, but what are the things that we can do? What would get these people motivated? How could we do that? So what to do, we can go back to the manuals and look at those things. But otherwise, start by thinking simply. Hierarchy. In a micro, you might find that the person who is the person who takes the order, the person who drives the vehicle, the person who delivers the stuff, the person who pays for the raw material, the person who collects the cash from the sales, and the person who is the boss of the company, they are all the same people, one person. But in a large company, SME, those happen to be different people. So what do we have to look at? Responsibilities. So we got to focus on responsibilities. And then see what are you see, when we spoke of job description, job profiling, what are we talking there? What is the responsibility and what is the thing that person has to do? So that's how we need to look at that. Communication. Whether it's 5 employees also, you need to talk and communicate, and you have plans and actuals and variations and problems. And even if it's a large company, those same things are all there. Maybe even they are in a bigger way. So now, how do you go about information sharing? Right? For a company with 10 people, can you have a notice board? You can. For a company with 100 people, can you have a notice board? Yes, you can. Can you subdivide this notice board to say different things? HR matters, quality matters, production matters. You can. So you see, it's about information sharing. How do I pass that information on to the next person, next level? So that's what our focus is on. Sales volume and value. Maybe small in small, more in much bigger, much larger in SMEs. Who is paying for the sales? Why are there sales? Because of whom? You see, it's because of customers. Micros also have customers. SMEs also have customers. The customers may be different. Micros are selling maybe to larger shops within the city or country or within the region. SMEs, they may be within the country or they may be exporting, but we are talking about customers. So when we come to the module on quality, we talk about customers, internal customers, external customers. How do we tailor these things to fit the micro, and then how do we move it up, upscale it for SMEs? One of the disadvantages of doing this kind of training is that, I'm only seated and looking at a screen here, and I don't see you. But if we were all in a classroom like pre-COVID, we could have, had more fun and shared more things. So that's a little bit of the limitation. And but still, I hope you are getting what I'm saying. If we look at micros, they also have a little bit of equipment. SMEs also have equipment and machines. And whether it is a small enterprise, micro enterprise, or a slightly larger one, if the machine doesn't work properly, or if it works properly, what happens? What gets affected? Your output and productivity. So focus on output and productivity is what I would say. Clear? Now, what are the types of productivity like we spoke about and all that? That is detail. That is where your thinking comes in. That is where your experience comes in. And that's how you look at the company and what's going to suit them. Works is how you go and put that into practice and share it with them. But idea is the same. There are methods used in micros. They'll say, we do it this way. SMEs might say, oh, we have a process for doing it. They may use different names. What are they all talking about? Systems. They are all talking about systems. Focus on the system. In a micro, you may not be able to have very formal systems and document it, in SOPs and stuff like that. But as you move into SMEs, you begin to go in for SOPs and have more formalized systems and things like that. So we focus on the system aspect. If we go into small, micro enterprises, they're talking about accidents. Somebody's finger got injured. It can happen in SMEs also, but SMEs you might go in and we'll talk about, well, we didn't have an accident for the last 2 years. But how about near misses? Do you calculate near misses? It nearly happened. It didn't happen, but it nearly happened. Near misses. What are we talking about in both places? We are talking of safety at work. So you focus on safety at work. Now again, you need to know more about all that. You go and look at the module 5 or the OSH module in SCORE, right? And you can go into detail on that. What I'm trying to leave with you here is to transition you from micro to SMEs, to bigger ones. In micro, it is easy because, or you might say the whole thing is in one room. All the operation happens in one room. But when you move into SMEs, oh, it's a big building. Gosh, it's a factory. It happens in many rooms. But principles are the same. the magnitude and the way we go about it is a little different. So that's what I want to take away when Janwa spoke with me about this, how do we help our trainers to move from these micros to how do they help big ones? Some of them are worried about helping big ones. So don't worry about the size. Look at what to focus on. Now, what I have here is about 8 or 9 things here. I mean, we can write this list and write more on this thing that I think you can do, but when you look at the difference and then you find what is the similarity and what are you going to focus on. Don't worry, you might make initial mistakes, but you will get it. Okay, you will get it. So I hope this was useful to, I only have a very limited time to tell you all these things. So I thought this is one of the best ways of sharing this with you. Right, so let's move again. We are talking about the micro and SMEs. This is directly taken from the answers you all gave from the questionnaire. Challenges, of course, I think the challenges, I think we had about more than 40 challenges, so I can't put all those here, but these are like the more common ones that I found in the answers that were given by the trainers. So first was, one thing was poor communication. Poor communication seems a problem in the micros. It's the same in the SMEs as well. People don't talk to each other. People don't share the information that should be shared. They'll talk about everything else, but not that important thing that you want to talk about. Sometimes I have friends, they call me for something. They say, actually, I'm not feeling very well today. And then, so I asked, okay. The thing is, I tried to call the hospital, they didn't answer. Then, it's also raining outside. It is, these days, it's not safe to go to hospitals also because of this COVID. And now, after about 5 minutes, they have not told me what is wrong with them. So you see, poor communication. They tell everything around it, but not what the issue is, right? So it's like that even in companies. Poor teamwork. We find this in all places, right? Big or small, micro SMEs, we find poor teamwork. People don't work together. We put the fellows together, but then they say, but they don't work together, right? Because we didn't tell them how to work together. Very often that's the case, right? Low productivity. It's there in micros, it's there in SMEs. These are challenges. Unavailability of data. A lot of trainers, I've done this program for a lot of people, and a lot of countries. Data is not available. The ones in the smaller enterprises will say, if we got a SME, they have all the data. The ones in the SMEs say, because these are big companies, you don't get data. But if it was a small company, everything is there. So that's not the case. All companies, unavailability of data is a major problem. Next one, adjusting to the company level. How do we adjust to the company level? Good question. Whether you're dealing with SMEs or micros, even in the SMEs, there is no one formula. You need to go down to the level of the enterprise. When we do the 2-day training program or the 3-day training program or whatever, when people are physically with us, we generally do a standard training program. But that is why SCORE has the in-factory or on-site enterprise visits, because then we can go down to each company's level. So the level of company D, and that is where we make a difference as facilitators. So we need to adjust. Company A, oh yeah, we have all the job descriptions, everything is fine, people have signed and all that. When you go to company D, this organization structure that was done about 3 years ago, and no, we are still trying to develop the JDs. So we need to go down to that level. You see, something like that. Slow progress and timeliness. What's the main reason? Slow progress and timeliness does not happen, or slow progress happens and timeliness does not happen, is because mainly due to motivation. It is not that we are too busy. Companies, I have seen companies that are very, very busy and who still have their weekly EIT meetings are doing very good work and having great progress. So being busy is not an excuse, but it is the motivation and the leadership given by the CEO, as well as the senior management, as well as the way the trainer can motivate that enterprise. So that's what we mean there. High rejections and waste. This can be in any kind of enterprise, any kind of company. High rejections and waste. Do they record this? Do they calculate the waste? Now you can use simple techniques of counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and that's also all right, depending on the company. And other companies will say DHU. What is DHU? Defects per 100 unit. It doesn't matter however they use it, but is it calculated? Is it accurate? Is it timely? There is no point in getting the rejections and the waste after 3 days. Nothing you can do about it. Good companies have this figure every hour, every 2 hours. So you can take action within the day. When it has come the next day, it's already you lost 24 hours, right? So is there a system? Is there responsibilities? Tools and techniques, you can look at the SCORE manuals. Low trust and motivation. That is there across the board. Why? Management says, oh, we have to get this order done because it has to go on the 10th. It has to leave on the 10th. On the 15th, so everybody has worked, they have put their heart and soul in and worked. But on the 15th also, the boxes are still there. It has not been delivered, dispatched, or shipped. So when you ask the management, they say, if we didn't say that, they will not produce it, no. They will not work. Now what happens when they go a second and a third time? What do workers say? It's never going on the 10th. It will be there till the 25th. You know what happened last time also. And then, but that third time it actually has to go on the 10th or 11th. the management will never get that shipment out. But if you tell the truth, that can create trust and it can create motivation. Of course, there are other things, the way supervisors treat workers. What is the role of a supervisor? These are things that, we can't discuss here, but what is the real role of a supervisor? And that's the first step of real trust building, right? Sometimes you'll say the managing director or the owner of the company, the CEO, is very, very good, but the people down the line mess it up, okay? They create bad trust and confidence. The other one, low consistency, sustainability, and CI. So what happens is, today they do something well, but tomorrow they don't do it well. Today, defects are only 1.5%. Same product on the line, tomorrow defect is 7%. Why? No consistency. There is no sustainability. There is no CI. There has not been proper training and development. The CIS approach may not have been used. It's the human approach or the I tell you do approach that may have been used. Have the workers been given the freedom to come up with their own solutions? So those are issues that affect these things. The biggest issue that we face, or that I have seen, the programs that I ran in Sri Lanka as well as in other parts of the world, is how I look at it is this: 33% of companies in the program do very well. Another 33% of the companies, they are okay, nothing great, but okay, they have got benefit out of this. The last 33% really doesn't do too well at all. The same program. And maybe if you take the 10% of the last 33, those guys will say, don't ever join the SCORE program. Why? What is the difference? The real difference is not the people. The people are the same. People is people. Commitment by the CEO or the owner. If the CEO, if you get his commitment or his or her commitment, and they drive the process, they take an intrinsic interest in this process, and they understand the process, and you have a very good relationship with them, you can be sure that the program you do, whether it's in micros or SMEs, you're going to see good results. So, given our time limitation, I wanted to stick to some of these key things. I'm going to give you time at the end, like Fazrul said, where you can ask any question that you want to ask. So please make use of that time. So you see, on the solution side, I have said homework, right? So homework is not for me, but for you. Think of the things that I have been saying, more than the things that I have been saying. All of you are experienced trainers, you are professionals, we all have backgrounds, but we have seen companies and we have some knowledge. So try to put down these things, and of course this PowerPoint that I'm doing is available to you all. Okay, so you'll have this. Look at this, and even tomorrow we can if you have questions, still we can go back. But I want you to, each of you might have different answers to these challenges. But the important thing is to write something down. How you're going to look at these based on what we talk about in SCORE, right? Primarily use the SCORE methodology. You may use some other tools out of your experience, but these are the common challenges that we all face. You face, I face, every country faces. And how do we overcome these things? Right? We must kind of like have a recipe book, right? So that you can just turn the pages and see, oh, I have a problem with this company. They don't have data. What should I do? So you must be able to turn it to that page and say, okay, no data means these are the 3-4 things that I need to start doing. Okay. Similarly, for the other things on the list. So, wait, let me move on to the next slide, which is trainer preparedness for SMEs. How should trainers be prepared to go to SMEs? What should be done? And how should I be prepared is the story. First thing is build a professional. The word professional here is very important. Customer SCORE facilitator relationship. Or you might say client SCORE facilitator relationship. Number one is that you need to be on a good relationship with your client. Now here, when we talk about the customer, we may be talking about the owner of the company, the CEO, or it may be the general manager, or it may be others as well, or it may be all of them. But most important is the top man or top lady in the company. You need to be able to build their confidence. Now, why this word professional is not just put there because it's a nice word. Being professional means they must respect you that you have the knowledge. When they see you, they must get the confidence, this is a person who can help my company. Now, it does not mean that, every time we go into an industry, it does not mean that we are the expert in that industry. We may not know how to produce the products that they are making. That's okay. But we can look at how they are doing things and how they can improve things. We have the other tools and techniques. We spoke about lean a little while ago. What is lean? When the CEO says, I want to be a lean company. I came to do SCORE, not lean. Then there is a problem. Oh yeah, lean is a part of SCORE. Yes, that's right. There are 8 key areas that we are going to look at in lean. And so, you build the confidence of the boss. So be professional. The way you dress, the way you act, the way you talk, all that goes into professional. It's not only your qualification. You may be having a master's or a PhD, but that's only going to be good as far as when Janua or Fazrul or whoever introduces you to the company, after that, that has nothing to do with it. It is how you go about it. So build a professional customer SCORE facilitator relationship. Understand the industry before the visit. Read up about the industry. They are making tires. I have never been to a tire factory. You know, I only done crafts, so I have only done car metal parts or plastics. So how do I do that? You know, how do I do that? So understand the industry before the visit. You may have friends who are working in that kind of industry. Hey, excuse me, my friend, can I come and see you? Can you tell me a little about tires, manufacturing tires? I don't know anything about it. You know, what are the critical things about tires? Trying to find out some idea about it. Today we have the internet, not like those days. Google and see what that is. See what are the problems that the tire industry has been facing globally or in your country or wherever, right? So you have a little bit of knowledge. You don't need to know everything about the tire industry, but have a little bit of knowledge about the industry before you visit it. Find out about the company to be visited, not only the industry, now the company that you're going to visit. They may be having a website. You may have used the products that that company has been producing. Maybe they are making cosmetics. You have been using their shampoo on your head. You know? So when you meet the boss, you have something to talk about. You know, you're not a stranger. Find out about the company to be visited. You know, they may have joined the program because, you know, you may have seen them appearing in the newspapers because they fired 10 workers. Now they are joining SCORE. And then I hope you're not going to scratch your head and say, why did Janua give me this company? They have been in the newspapers also. That's an opportunity. You know, they may not be having good HR. So here's how SCORE can help them. So find out about the company. You must know your SCORE core. Now I know you all are experienced trainers, so I know that you know what SCORE is. But I visit some countries and, you know, even after going for the baseline assessment, the trainers have no idea what is SCORE. And then that becomes a little bit of a problem. So know your SCORE, the core of it, what it is there for, right? That's important. Carry out a thorough baseline assessment. Don't just sort of gloss over it. Oh, they didn't quite give me the answer. They were not there. That person was absent, so I couldn't get the answer. Or think, yeah, I think it may be like this. Maybe. You know, that's not going to help you. So carry out a thorough baseline assessment or a BLA when you visit your SME, right? Understand how SCORE module or the module or modules can be made relevant to that company. That's why we do a BLA, so that we have a first-hand idea about that company. And then when we know what are the SCORE, what is a module that we are going to do, how can that module help this company? That is what is important. The other important thing is organize yourself, have a manual file, have a separate electronic file and maintain all the records pertaining to that company. People quite often ask, why do I have to have a manual file? Because, you know, these days we are working paperless. We do everything on E, so we don't want paper. Yeah, not a bad idea. But then I also have found when we have gone to the company, you know, my computer doesn't work unless you plug the thing to the power, because the battery has fully died. So it only works if you plug it. So when we go to the company, they say, oh, we are having a 1 hour power cut. So then that becomes a problem. You can't open your computer. When you want to turn pages and say, this is the way to do things, on the computer, sometimes it's not easy to do that. And you can't pass around your computer to share something around the table. They all may not have a screen to project from your computer. But if you had that format in your file, you can take out that form and pass it around, and the job can be done very quickly. So there are many, many reasons that why we should kind of have both systems, right? Now, that doesn't mean that you print out all your correspondence and put it in the file. You'll probably pick what is the key ones and put it in your file, okay? So important as a trainer, as a facilitator, to have these systems done well in your computer as well as manually. Then together with the EIT, set relevant, productive, individual project KPIs and periodically monitor progress. Now, why do I say that? Because you see, the enterprise improvement team is the team. It may have a few people, it may have a dozen people, right? But that is the team that drives the program and the process forward for SCORE. The EIT works on a project basis. We select different projects. How to reduce the defect in line number 3, defect rate. So that's a project. So this project has to have some project KPIs. We need to set those. Now, I don't advocate, I'll speak about this tomorrow, but I would say at least we should have only 2 good KPIs for a project. Don't have 8 project KPIs. That's difficult to monitor sometimes. Okay. Might look nice at the start, but then as you go on, it becomes tough. So, and these must be relevant. You know, the project KPIs must be relevant because it must focus purely on reducing the defect rate. And when I say periodically monitor progress, what I mean here is not like once in 6 months, but what you must specify what that periodically, that you must monitor the progress. Is it every 2 weeks, every 1 month, or however, right? So they need to do it daily probably, but you need to do it weekly or something like that. So that's important. So these are some of the key things where trainers need to be prepared to, when you go to support SMEs. So remember that you are a SCORE facilitator. You may not know that industry at all. Good if you know it, but if you don't, that's fine. That's okay. But be professional and think of how you can use the many, many tools that are there in SCORE to support this improvement of this enterprise. Right. So with that, we've come to the end of day one. And what are the questions that you might have for me? So let me stop the sharing of the screen. And Fazrul, you're going to help me with this?
Oke, Pak Jayanta. Ya, Bapak Ibu
So I
sekalian.
think the time is about almost your time and my time is different, but I think we roughly have about 20 minutes more, between 20 and 30 minutes.
Yes, Pak.
Right.
Because the TOT will
Okay.
begin until 3 o'clock our times. At 5. We will finish at 5, so we still have around 34, Pak. 34 minutes. Ya, baik Bapak Ibu sekalian, thank you Pak Jayanta for all the presentations. Bapak Ibu sekalian, kita masih ada sisa waktu sesuai dengan kesepakatan dengan Pak Jayanta. Sisa waktu ini bisa kita manfaatkan untuk saling tanya jawab. Bapak Ibu boleh bertanya dalam bahasa Indonesia karena kita akan dibantu oleh ada Mbak Weni dan Mbak Dinda di sini. Jadi silakan saja jika ada pertanyaan. Dan nanti Pak Jayanta akan coba menjawab. Kalaupun nanti tidak bisa jawab hari ini, seperti pertanyaan Pak Fernando nanti akan menjadi catatan kita. Karena training kita besok kita off dan kita akan masuk kelas lagi di hari Jumat ya. Jadi bisa dijawab di hari Jumat. Jadi silakan Bapak Ibu sekalian jika ada pertanyaan bisa langsung ditanyakan. Silakan dalam bahasa Indonesia Bapak Ibu sekalian supaya nanti kita sama-sama dan teman-teman yang lain juga bisa sama-sama memahami lebih detail tentang pertanyaan. Silakan Bapak Ibu sekalian.
Ya, saya boleh bertanya, Pak?
Silakan Ibu Judith.
Ibu Yudit, ya, oke. This is about lean manufacturing. Salah satu one of the element in lean manufacturing is about overproduction. Companies sometimes produce more than demand. That's because they prepare for defect. So they make like what we call buffer. It may they make that strategy because when the time is come, they're afraid that they will have a panic. What do you saya terhenti, Pak. Am I freeze?
Iya, Ibu, mungkin bisa diulang sedikit tadi, Bu. Kebetulan freeze-nya.
Oke, sampai mana tadi, Pak?
Okay. Right. You're Judith, right? Am I right?
Yes.
Judith?
Yeah.
Let me see if I got your question right. Okay.
Yeah.
Your question was, some companies, they produce a buffer,
Yeah.
right? Excess of, if you require 1,000, they are actually producing, let's say 1,100, because they might have 70 items might not conform to the quality that is required, so that if they produce 1,100, they can find those 70 when it's time. Am I right? Right. So what is your question?
When company prepare for buffering, having buffer, it means that they produce overproduction. It means that
Right.
it's not a
Right.
lean manufacturing.
Yes, you're correct. That is not lean manufacturing. So my answer to that, Judith, is that my answer to that is that the company is unnecessarily wasting its resources because they are not sure of their system, right? So now how I would look at it is, if you calculated the material cost for that extra number they produce, the buffer, right? If you calculate the labor cost for that buffer, if you calculated the overhead costs for that buffer, like, the electricity and the, whatever else that goes into that, you calculate the machine time for that. You can also calculate, if you had now one, let's say you came up with 10,000 rupiah, right? If you came up with that, if you had that in the bank, how much of interest could you have earned on that? You add all that together, right? And that is the cost, or that is the waste, I would say, that has been produced. Now, like I told, I think earlier I told Elizabeth as well, if you show that to the company, right, and say this much is waste, why do you want to do all this? And talk to them about the right first time. How do you get it right first time? And then say you can reduce all this amount of cash, and that will be profit for you. How about that? That is profit. You see? So you have to find a way to tell them this is overproduction. And that's exactly what the lean concept is talking about there in simple terms, right? So we are just talking of one order, but they do that continuously, over and over and over again. You can calculate that cost for a year. I think with that cost, that whole cost for the year, they'll be able to buy the other factory that is next door also. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Right. Yeah. So we don't, these are the areas as trainers, as facilitators, we must try to think and tell them. Just telling won't help. Overproduction, lean says overproduction, so you must not overproduce. It's not going to do anything. They're not going to do anything, but you must then calculate like I told you and say, here is the figure. Then they'll do something about it, right? Okay, next question.
Yeah. Terima kasih Ibu Yudit. Ya, Bapak Ibu sekalian, mungkin ada pertanyaan lagi. Kita masih ada waktu.
Yes, I'm raising my hand again, Pak
Yeah, I
Jayanta.
see Elizabeth.
Silakan.
No worries, no worries. That's fine.
So, yes, coming back to the cleaner production, I understand that when we talk about waste, like what Ibu Judith just asked you about overproduction thing, it's a normally company, when they see the figures, they want to keep that money rather than wasting it. But going back again to my previous question about, I'm asking about what if, what is your experience on approaching companies in terms of the pollution? Because sometimes some of the industry use chemicals, or they like for jeans industry, they do the washing process to make it like an old rugged jeans, and they waste quite a lot of water into the environment. So how, from your experience, how we should approach it so that the company can be alert and raise their awareness to reduce that?
Right. So one is now there are, see, you can work with, I think it's UNDP. Fazrul can correct me, or someone can correct if I get the wrong agency, but I think it's UNDP, and they have a very good clean production strategy. They have a program. Not only that, even in your country, if you speak with the with your, I think, Ministry of Labor, they may have, or Ministry of whatever the relevant ministry, they may have a unit that looks at this. And there may be certain laws also pertaining to how much of waste you can put into the into the public system, right? So first thing, there are two things here. One is to educate them to say that waste and harmful things, to where it affects other people. When I say other people, it can be workers, it can be people who are outside the factory, and things like that. That it's a bad thing. You're not a responsible enterprise. See, if you take the name SCORE, sustaining, competitive, and responsible enterprises. So we can go back to that and say this is what our program is also about: responsibility. And not only that, you're buying all these chemicals. Are you how much of this chemical is really waste? Like I spoke earlier, are you using too much chemical? Then what do you do with that chemical? Does it just get disposed into the water system, wastewater system, or do you have a separate system for that waste? Is there a way to collect that and give it for ethical disposing? Or if now, like you said, they're doing denims, so this becomes a washed garment, a washed denim, because once you do put the chemicals and you make it old, you have to go use it through a washing process. And generally what enterprise ETP, the effluent treatment plant. So that water is then put into that, and it is, they measure the BOD, COD levels, and then it is either recycled, it can be used for various other things, or it can be then discharged into the waste. Okay, So it's a process of educating them in those.
Are we losing Pak Jayanta?
Did you
Oh, okay.
Ya, mohon maaf. Kita
did you
kekurangan.
get my answer?
We're missing
Some
you.
last point,
Slide. Yeah.
Some last point we missing, Pak Jayanta.
Oh, last
Can you
point.
repeat?
Yeah. So, yes. So what I was saying, Elizabeth, is that's the process that we can really adopt. You know, one is educating, and one is showing how much of a cost or loss is being maintained, and also, you show the rule to this, and of course, globally, buyers are looking for ethical production. Are we okay?
So the approach from the regulations, from costs, but also from the reputation for the company itself.
Yes.
Thank you,
these
Pak
are some thoughts. These are not the only ways. There may be other ways that you can address these as well. Okay.
Yeah. Thank you, Pak Jayanta.
Welcome.
Terima kasih Ibu Elizabeth atas pertanyaannya. Bapak Ibu yang lain mungkin masih ada yang ingin ditanyakan juga. Kita masih ada waktu, Pak, Bapak Ibu, untuk bertanya. Dan pastinya bagus sekali jika ada pertanyaan, Bapak Ibu, karena dengan adanya satu pertanyaan itu akan membuat kita bisa mendapatkan informasi yang lebih banyak lagi. Jadi mohon jika ada pertanyaan, silakan Bapak Ibu sekalian ditanyakan. Dan tentunya ya Pak Jayanta akan memberikan penjelasan seperti saya ungkapkan tadi. Jika ada pun pertanyaan yang belum bisa dijelaskan di hari ini, Pak Jayanta akan mencatat itu dan akan menjawabnya di hari berikutnya. Silakan Bapak Ibu sekalian.
So ask as many questions as you want. Don't feel shy. Don't think it's a stupid question, or don't think it's not relevant. If you have a question, please ask, and I'll try to do my best in giving the answer.
Ibu Judith ini ingin bertanya lagi Pak Jayanta. Silakan Ibu Judith.
Can I ask again?
Yes, please.
Yeah. Okay. I heard about linear economy versus circular economy. When you say about reuse, recycle, do you mean it has a relationship with a circular economy? Thank you.
Yeah. See, the new way of looking at CP is trying to look at what we call the circular economy. It means now here what we really are talking about, reuse, reduce, reuse, recycle, is I would say a small component of it, right? Of what we are talking is, once these things have come into our enterprise, how we are looking at eliminating that waste, right? And how we are not going to pollute the environment because of that. The circular economy is a wider concept. It looks at every input component and how, I think, how at the end of the day, now if you look at the ad of, if you look at the advertisement which I saw of Toyota, right? Toyota says that every component that is used, that is used or to be used in its automobile has a life cycle, right? That once it finishes that life cycle, it will go back to the environment and it will not pollute the environment. It will not last for 200 years, kind of thing, right? So that's going a little, that's taking it a few steps further, so that would look at how we source our raw materials as well. Not only, and from just like, earlier we spoke about customers buying the product from a factory and saying, is this ethically produced, right? Similarly, the factory says, I'm buying 4 kinds of inputs. Are these ethically, environmentally kind of produced? So the enterprise is also not going to buy those unless that conforms to fulfilling the circular economy. Is that clear?
Yeah, it is for a big company. Do you think it is also a good attitude, a good behavior?
But the SMEs can do it.
Okay, yeah, I think, yeah.
Certainly, if it can be done, it is certainly a good thing. And I think that is where we need to strive to go from now on. Maybe difficult, but I think, looking at everything that's going around in our world, it doesn't matter which country we are in, but if we really need to save the planet, I think these are things that we need to have at least in our mind, and see how and whenever we can do something about it, to do something about it.
Yeah, actually, when I went to a village, I can see that actually it is a good practices that they actually already have. When they have what do you call waste of rice from the kitchen, they give it to a kitchen that they have around the house. They didn't just throw it away. Maybe I think it is a good habit that also we can say to SME, like what a big company do it now.
Sorry, I think I missed, I think your last part.
Yeah, it's okay. Yeah, like what did you already say, that SME can also have that a good best practice, like what a big company now try to do. I mean, a circular economy. Thank you.
Yeah, I think you got me, but I'm not hearing you very, very clearly at this point. The internet connection, something is a little off somewhere. But I think we managed to get the point across.
Baik, Bapak Ibu sekalian, terima kasih sekali lagi buat Ibu Judith. Ibu, terima kasih atas pertanyaannya. Bapak Ibu sekalian, mungkin mengingat waktu kita sudah hampir habis, cuma ingin mengingatkan Bapak Ibu sekalian, kita akan ketemu lagi di hari Jumat nanti di jam yang sama ya Bapak Ibu sekalian. Dan untuk jangan dilewatkan Bapak Ibu sekalian, untuk materi-materi hari berikutnya itu lebih menarik lagi, karena itu lebih fokus kepada bagaimana kita menghadapi kondisi ke depan nanti dengan adanya pandemi seperti ini. Dan Pak Jayanta, we agree that if any participant want to raise their question in the middle of your presentations, and they can interrupt, right? They can raise their hands. Is it okay by that, Pak?
If anyone wants to, in the presentation?
Yeah, if they have a question in the middle of your presentations, then may they raise up they raise their hands and give questions?
Yeah, I think what you can do, are you talking about tomorrow or today?
Yeah, no, the day after tomorrow, on the
Day
second
after
day.
tomorrow, yeah.
Yeah.
I think what can be done, we need to do some little bit of improvement on the way we are doing this fuzz rule, which you and I, and maybe we can chat about this after that. What I can certainly, after each slide is over, I can give a little bit of time for the questions. How about that?
Oke. Ya, thank you Pak Jayanta. Sepakat ya Bapak Ibu sekalian ya, supaya kita nggak terlalu jauh sekali di tengah-tengah. Jika ada pertanyaan, kita bisa langsung bertanya setelah slide selesai. Baik Bapak Ibu sekalian, sebelum kita mengakhiri hari ini, saya mau ucapkan terima kasih untuk Pak Jayanta pada hari ini, Pak Jayanta, dan terima kasih juga pada Bapak Ibu sekalian, para partisipan. Juga terima kasih untuk hari ini kepada Mbak Weni dan Mbak Dinda yang sudah terus bersama kita ini untuk mentranslate, memperjelas. Terima kasih juga ke Mbak Dewi dan Mbak Ria. Sebelum kita tutup, mohon diaktifkan semua video agar kita bisa ambil foto bersama untuk hari ini, Bapak Ibu sekalian. Mbak Ria dan Mbak Dewi nanti akan mengambil foto kita, mohon diaktifkan videonya semua.